So I recently got this little board here, and it's for an old little system I'll be building for someone else, and it's gonna be reasonably fast. And I got this for a pretty good price, I think about 30 bucks. And here's this big feature right here about it. That's a Phenom 2 X6 1090T, which is theoretically overclockable. Big thing is it's a 6-core, it's about equivalent to a first gen i7 in multi-threaded performance. Single-threaded is meh, but it works. But for the price with a working board, the store I got it from used said it worked, so I'm gonna kinda trust them. It's not a bad store. It is missing a few pieces though, so that's what this power here is for. So you need a GPU for those because they don't have an iGPU. So well, it was optional at the time to get a GPU integrated into Northbridge. Since this guy here doesn't have any video outputs, I'm pretty sure it didn't have that chipset and had the higher end chipsets that didn't have the video outs. Because only the low-end chipsets had video outs, because the high-end ones assumed you were going to use a dedicated graphics card. So here's the 5450. I'm going to chuck a 7850 on it just for a few games, just for kicks on it. But that's another story. 4 gigs of DDR3 for testing. I think I have a random SSD laying around. Yeah, I have a random SSD over there I'm going to use for testing just because it's faster than a hard drive, and hard drives are slow. Heatsink. I don't want to waste my thermal compound until it's all ready. It didn't come with one of these AMD backplates. I think I have a... This is my good one. That came with my good motherboard. And you see how it's a AM3 Plus because it doesn't have the full square. I want to see if I can find a cheap one because I know I have some old dead AMD boards. But it works for today. So let's get this assembled now and hope she boots correctly. Here's kind of my not so perfect test bench setup. So I have the motherboard, I got everything I needed. CPU, I don't want to unmount these CPUs. I don't know the exact rating is, but I know these like 0 insertion source sockets for CPUs can often have really low insertion ratings, so you don't want to just take them in and out for fun. But I've never had a socket fail on me because of that. I don't think I've ever had a dead socket. I've always just had dead boards, but it could just be a dead socket that makes me think it's a dead board. I don't know, motherboards like to die. These AMD backplates, the reason you find a lot of boards without them is because a lot of third-party coolers don't use them. It's pretty awesome when they do because they go on really easily. But if they don't use it, then you have to take them off and put the special AMD mounting hardware on. And all the stock coolers use these, they're really easy. And they've kept this the same for a long time, but no, they had to change with AM4 because of mounting pressure or something. And they nudged it just a little bit to annoy me, but not that much, really. Also, this board does look like it's a high... I have no idea. I haven't Googled this model at all because it has 2 boards. I could test Crossfire with dual 5450s, but why would I? RAM slots. I don't know what the correct dual channel is. I'm going to assume it's the 2 farther ones, but it's probably the 2 closer ones, but we'll check in the BIOS once we get in there. It should boot like this, if I'm right. Heatsink. This is my black painted Hyper TX3. Painted this black to look cool in another system. It works surprisingly well, but... And I think I only have the AMD mounting hardware for it. I lost the Intel one, so that's kind of annoying, but who cares? I have enough old AMD systems I'm using, so that's fine. And then, oh, that clip does not sound good. Then here's my old crummy fan that I probably stole from some old Dell system getting put in here. Yeah, here's that SSD. SSD is going to have to go in here. So, power supply-wise, because apparently I can't seem to get my hands on enough working ATX power supplies. I always end up with these, and these are used server power supplies, which I'm going to take the case off and just put another random fan in it, like I did in my previous video testing the Pentium 4 system. Yeah, because this guy's horribly loud, because tiny little whiny fan. Well, let's do that. Plugging in power now and being optimistic that this actually works. Oh boy. There she goes. Okay. Plugging in other connections. So, because this is my test bench, I happen to have all the connections I could possibly need. So I have VGA out to my little display. I have Ethernet, because Windows likes to update and do crap. Power, of course, for my power supply, which, yes, I took the cover off just because it gets annoying with that. And the green LED turns on, so that means something's working. There's a good chance that is just a resistor on the 5-volt standby rail, so that doesn't really tell you too much. As in, here's my keyboard plugged in. As in my test bench mouse, which is a horrible old Apple mouse. So let's turn it on. Okay, this board's annoying. This board seems to be annoying. Normally, most boards put their little headers right around here. Right here-ish for turning stuff on. This guy puts it here, front pedal panel headers, which is annoying, but looks like, according to this guy, this is the power switch. And the fans have turned on, so that's good. Let's look at the screen. Come on, we can do it. Ah, screen's turning on. Screen's turning. Yay, I did it. It says push delete to unsetup. Oh, it's initializing my thing. No hard drive detected? Should be a hard drive. Okay. What's in setup? Okay, so it did detect a hard drive. SATA seems to be working. Oh, it actually has IDE, which is kind of cool. Let's set these guys to HCI for both. Storage information. System information. Yep, has 4 gigs of RAM. Yep, 1090T. 3.2 gig isn't horrible. It's an old version. I think that date is wrong. It's not going to tell me if it's month, day, year. I'm assuming it's month. Why did I have to do it this way? And then, it's being filmed on the 28th. Oh, this is annoying me. Normally I can just use like that, but I can't use arrow keys, I have to use enter. And that would be 2017. Yes, English. Time. Time set correctly. What else do I want to do? Jumper free config. What is that? Oh, that's overclocking. I'm not going to play with that now. I think I can overclock this guy, but I'm pretty sure. I don't know if it's multiplier unlocked, but I'm pretty darn sure that the bus speed's unlocked if I ever want to play with that. Multicode. Secure virtual machine. Sure, no reason not to enable that. I don't care. Chipset. Yeah, Northbridge. ECC. Oh, this guy has ECC. Huh. That's kind of cool. I don't care. Oh, because these chips did support ECC, because AMD doesn't disable as much stuff as Intel normally does, but it's kind of changing with Ryzen. USB config. I really don't care right now. Boot device priority. First boot. That feels correct. If I exit this, I should be able to boot right into the OS. And let's hope it boots into it, because I have a USB of Windows 10 that I'm going to be playing with right now, which should perform fine. So now in the Windows installer, let's do this. It should be pretty darn quick. Just hit next. Not gonna give it a Windows key, so I'm just gonna continue. All I should do, might as well shove Pro on it. It's gonna get deleted pretty quick anyways though. Accept, next, custom. This is from the previous Ubuntu install apparently. I'm gonna just delete them all and recreate everything, and it should be happy with that. New, apply, okay. And then now we're going to actually get to installing Windows. If you notice, it only created one additional partition because it's installing in MBR or legacy mode instead of UEFI, which makes a lot more partitions because this is an old board. Apparently this guy doesn't support UEFI, which time right would be just about correct for it not to. Anything much newer than this, and it probably should support UEFI, but it's about right for that time. I did a little bit of stuff off camera, and here it is right now. So I put a faster GPU, and I had this 7850 laying around I wasn't really using for anything. Yeah, that's pretty much it, hardware-wise. The 5450 worked fine. I just said, let's gonna try some games. The other thing I have an IO thermometer. Let's try some temps. So looking at like the top of the GPU, we're sitting at about 42 Celsius. VRM's got 38 in there. CPU heatsinks running about 30. Memory's running at about 32. Southbridge heatsinks about 36. Northbridge heatsinks about 32, and VRM's about, I got 39 in there once. So it's really not running that hot. I also have a power consumption meter running right now, and it's pulling 77, 78 watts. Sitting idle at the Windows 10 desktop. You can argue about OS as long as you want, but Windows 10 is kind of the newest, most modern version of Windows out there today. So that's what I'm running. And it'll work with testing programs and stuff like that. Generally better than other things like Linux, which I'd personally probably be using it here if it was my choice. So let's take a look around here. Windows 10 works fine. I've updated everything. I disabled all this stuff that monitors you. At least I went through all the options and turned them off. So here's a few things. Benchmark rise. How would a Cinebench run? It's running off network drives, so it should be relatively fast. I also have hardware info on here. That's the only thing I really put on here. Chips running. Does this guy actually have boost? I think he does. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it has to have some sort of like turbo boost like thing where it can run some CPUs higher than all the other ones. I haven't used these chips very much ever. Yeah, but if I actually run something up, but this is going to be a GPU one. But Northbridge clock is running at 2000 on like I think 22 and maybe 2400 on some of the faster FX chips. Usage is pretty low. It plays with the ratios only. Doesn't actually play with the system speed. Temperature wise, it says the CPU is running at 24 Celsius, but I know that's wrong because the heat sink's hotter than that. And I think it would be actually be in the mid 40s because it's about 20 degrees Celsius of adding on. V-core is really high because these old chips doesn't actually pull that much power. Right now it's pulling 174 watts with some fairly graphically intensive stuff. GPU says it's about half usage. It's CPU limited for sure. And if we look at clock speed, like some of them are running at 3.6, sometimes it goes all to 3.2 on all of them, and then sometimes 3.6 on some, 3.1 on others. Here's Cinebench, we got 482, which really isn't that much worse than my FX 8300, surprisingly enough, and it's a few years older. I think it was a higher tier chip though than the 8300. 8300 was like $90 chip, this is like $250 new. CPU clock speed sits at about 3.2 on all cores when it's doing it. This guy right now, it's single threaded, it's sitting about 3.6 on all cores. So turbo boost is working fine. It's not as big as some other chips, but it looks fine. And here's all the Cinebench results. So we get 70 FPS, so that's normally CPU limited. Not too bad. Not too bad. And not great for single core, but ratio is about what I'd expect because turbo. Don't want to save it. Here, what else am I looking for? Other things to test. I got some other. I can run older versions of that. I can run Crystal Disk Mark. I'm curious how fast. It's probably gonna complain. Yeah, it is. I can run Crystal Disk Mark, which would tell me how fast the drive is. CPU Z. We'll run that for fun. It's gonna want admin access. Yep, it will. Oh, just install it. Okay, that's fine. Next, install. Okay, CPU Z is now installed. And opens the README by default, which is great. Here's this Crystal Disk Mark, shove it in my downloads folder. Network speed, I think, is peak. I haven't installed iPerf on it, though. It's going to want me to extract it all. Next. It's pretty quick, though. And it's going to run as admin. Here's Crystal Disk Mark on the boot SSD. I think this guy only has SATA 2, if I'm right. Yeah, this chipset only had SATA 2. This will tell me a lot about the hardware right here, CPU Z, though. Do not check for updates. Okay. Okay, so pretty much everything looks fine. Phenom 2X2 has the wrong logo. I don't care. Max TDP, that's off. A lot of stuff here feels a bit off. Caches, mainboard. This is a 7890X board. So this is an older board. And this would be, I think, 1 gen before the boards they were designed for. Or one, no, this would be, I think, a slightly older chipset, but due to how AMD updated their chipsets, no. So I guess I can, if you want, look into the AMD 700, why don't I have them on 700 series chipsets. They do have these on Wikipedia right here, and here's all the big, the 790X would be, okay, so this guy lets you split it up into 8X slots, but if you went for a higher end chipset, you'd actually get, 2 16X slots. So you get more lanes. This guy has only 22 lanes versus 38 on the high-end ones. Because unlike a lot of, basically every new CPU, there's no PCI Express on the chip. All the PCI Express is on the Northbridge. So that does make a bit more heat. These are normally less efficient because of that. Yep, that's the SATA 2 speed limit. I know this drives faster than that, but this is still really fast compared to a hard drive. It boots in like 15 seconds. It's kind of awesome. What is there to test? You know what? Let's throw some games on it. I'm going to get some games installed from Steam and see how that works. Here's the Geekbench score. Realistically, not bad. I don't know that much about Geekbench scores. I don't use them too much. But for an old system that I got really cheap, not horrible. Let's look at some other games I can play with. Here's a good example. I have Tomb Raider on here. I don't want to stream it. I want to just play it on here. Okay, it's probably gonna have to install stupid DirectX again because Steam. Well, I haven't installed the game. Oh great, now I have to wait for it to download. Should be pretty fast. Geekbench runs fine. What else was I testing with? I didn't run too many other benchmarks. I just tried to download a few games, but forgot to download the one I wanted to use. So before we do that, let's do a little bit of testing power consumption wise. So, if I turn on CPU burner, right now it idles at roughly 77 watts of this GPU. It's about the same idle as the 5450. Those new 7000 series and much newer cards idle with very low power. Like if I shoved a 480 in it, it would idle with even less power. So now I have the CPU burner running, which basically just does this, maxes the CPU usage. And I can tell in firmware, and if I look at my power meter, I'm at about 165 watts. And then if I look at temperatures and let it level off, which will take a few minutes. Low temperatures, probably this guy, 37.5. The problem is that's off because if I do my thermometer on the heatsink, I'm at 30. That could be right, but if I do it like at the CPU die, I'm at 39-ish. What am I getting? 34? 38? Yeah, that has to be off by a few degrees, but it's doing fine. Let's see what the temperature goes up to. So it looks like the CPU temps gets to around 45 degrees and level off, but that's probably more like 65 with the temp area and with about 170 watts power consumption from the wall, and we're sitting at 3.2 on all cores. Might try overclocking in a bit. So if we stop this, and then we only run a GPU stress test, yes. Disable the warning, I know it's stupid to do this on it. My power consumption shoots up to about 210 watts, 212 with just the GPU being hit. CPU usage is fairly low, but it does take a reasonable amount of CPU oomph. You have to keep it running at clock speed generally to get this type of usage going. And then if I fire up the CPU burner as well, and start it, I don't know if that reduced GPU load. It probably did, so we're going to lower the thread count to 5. And we'll get power consumption in the 280 watts, right? Did that look correct? Yeah, nope, 293 watts. So we are pulling quite a bit of power from the wall. And if I take a look at, I can feel quite a bit of heat coming off this guy as well. And if I take a look at the power supply, it's rated for 280 watts at 120 volts. Yeah, that thing's warm though. But that also is power from the wall at 290. So we are still sitting under the power supply's max. Power supply doesn't really seem to mind. It's also a server one, which normally can get hit a lot harder than the cheap desktop ones. But, realistically not bad power consumption wise. I can't get it over 300, so that's not bad. I probably can if I overclocked it, but I'm not going to do that right now. We'll try that in a bit. So let's see more real life performance in something like a game. So here's Tomb Raider. It's a couple years old, yeah. Okay. Oh, and it has to install DirectX. I'll let it do its thing. The game has been launched, so let's give it a shot. Oh, I don't have a frame rate monitor. So here's Tomb Raider finally launched after being annoying and not wanting to launch, and then I had to reboot it, blah blah blah. So, VSync's off just so I can monitor frame rate better, advanced noise, ultimate. This should have pretty much everything as high as it goes. SSAA. Ultimate has almost everything maxed out. And if I hit apply, I have a frame rate monitor in the top left, the one that comes with Steam. It works. And it should load. I am getting currently 28 FPS. It's not as good as I wanted. It doesn't look horrible though. It's fun though, benchmark and see what I get average. So that gets me about 24 FPS average. Now I will note one thing, this is the benchmark and not the game, and the other thing is this is going to be very GPU intensive and not very CPU intensive just because of the ultra high settings. And if I go turn them down to high instead of ultimate or whatever, oh my gosh, it's load time. And it'll probably look a lot better. So if I go to options and then graphics and then advanced and I go down to high, custom, ultimate, ultra. You know, I could probably, let's just do ultimate, ultra, high. If I do high instead, I think, I don't know if high turns on Truss FX. Truss FX really only tanks NVIDIA cards, of which it really tanks NVIDIA cards. And doesn't really affect AMD cards because it's just because I think they used OpenCL, of which, especially at that time, and they probably purposely. I can't start the benchmark. That's not an option. That's weird. I guess I'll try relaunching the game. Here it is with high settings. Yeah, 55.8 FPS. That's great. Play stuff well. Anything lighter will run fine. This is 900p, and it's on a mess CPU. I don't know how else to test performance on here though for benchmarks. I've ran everything I can think of that's easy. CPU usage is surprisingly low. Tomb Raider really doesn't care about CPU usage. I guess the other thing I can think of is the pass mark test. I think I have it open in a tab. I can download and run their little test and see what good of a score I get there, but it's probably expected for 7850 and that chip. You know, I'm gonna go try Linux on it now. Yeah, let's chuck Linux on it. I like Linux. And we'll see how this all works on Linux now. So here's the Ubuntu server installer, just going through it. Hitting next quite a few times. This is booted from the network, so it works fine. You have to poke it a bit and give it the correct files, and then it works correctly. And then it's loading more components from the network. And I'm here to use the disk partition, so I'm just going to use the entire disk. I don't really care about the file system. It currently uses ext4. LVM is nice to have, but as a temporary system, I don't really care. Things like BTRFS, it's nice. It has a lot of features such as like compression and stuff, but generally it's slower because of its copy on write and compression and just more stuff, and it's a less mature file system than ext4. This is where you can make Ubuntu server into a standard desktop. Manual package selection. This just lets you pick them all manually. No reason to do that now. You can always use apt-get later. Blah blah blah. I don't care. Nope. You can pick your desktop here. You got Kubuntu. You got Mythbuntu, Lubuntu. Standard Ubuntu, GNOME, mate, standard Ubuntu, do I want standard? Screw it, GNOME. And then we're gonna use basic Ubuntu, might as well have an SSH server. Sure, font packages. Actually, I've never played this Ubuntu Studio, so we're gonna put that on instead. So that should be all I need for now. We're gonna just install that. Now it'll take a couple of minutes to get the whole install going, because it's quite a bit of data. And then we'll be booted into the Ubuntu desktop. So this is the first time I've ever used Ubuntu Studio, so let's see how I like it. I've actually never played with this. And we're gonna mess with hardware a bit too, so yes, network service, blah blah blah. Screen has a weird mark in it. What do we have pre-installed? Can I just press the key to open that? No, I can't. I think this is mate, I wanna say. I don't know exactly. But I'm gonna do uname A, it's 4.4. Kernel. What else is there? I mean, internet. What is my browser? Oh, I guess I have Firefox installed. That's cool. Oh, no, they are running XFCE. I wish XFCE has an easy search. It doesn't. That's kind of annoying. But idle power on Linux is 85 watts, so it feels like it's a bit higher. Which is a bit annoying. Linux normally does have slightly worse power management. Could also be due to graphics. I don't know exactly which component is using the extra power, or if it's not running completely at idle right now. Well, I mean, if I open up HTOP, you can see it's all here. Everything I need. I'm gonna go mess around. Let's get some stuff installed and see how she goes. So, I mean, Steam should install just fine on here. Steam was basically made for Ubuntu, so it should do fine. You can get it running on pretty much any distro, but a lot of the time you need some guy's custom code or linking libraries, because Steam is currently 32-bit only for whatever weird reason, and a lot of stuff's turning into 64. Video production, what do we have? Kdenlive. Oh, we have Blender pre-installed. That's kind of neat. Kdenlive, Paviti, and OpenShot. And Devedit NG. Okay. Oh, that's just a DVD creator. Okay. So if I do, I have to type in my password to install packages. Let's do that. And then for, what was video production? Graphic design, Blender again. Photography, Darktable. You know, software here seems fine. I personally probably wouldn't use it. I've heard of all this software before. Kden Live. Oh, it actually does come with that using repositories. Okay, that's cool. Resolution, I normally do 1080p. There's no easy way to pick it. I hope there's a way to change this later. Yeah, we'll save it there. Next. Finish. Yeah, I've played a Kden Live. It's fine. It's not great. I still use Premiere most of the time for everything. Nah. So now if I open... It's probably under Games, Steam. Comes with Mines, the open source version. Steam should install fine. You know, let's try Tomb Raider. I'm curious how well it compares. And now it has to install packages. And that's the big thing. You have to correctly link these packages and stuff for it to work on other distros. Because a lot of times they don't want to do it correctly. Yes, it's going to install a ton of junk. What else? Paviti I haven't used for a while. I probably am saying it wrong now. I don't remember using this. New projects. Yeah, I don't remember. Most of these are fine, but they aren't great. Oh, I think I was using Shortcut mainly. My big complaint is they're just not to the level. I wish they'd all kind of work together to make one great one, but they don't. I have to press return to continue, then Steam will be installed. What else? Blender, what version of Blender does it come with? I could try updating it to, 1704, I think. I know where the settings are. Is there a standard settings thing? Ubuntu Studio. I don't know what that does. Software updater, maybe? This is 2.76, so it's a bit older just because it's running on the stable version. The stable version doesn't really want to touch anything. Okay. Oh, I probably should have touched settings there. I want to be under software. I'd probably be under here. And it's going to look for updates again. It's basically running apt-get update. And then settings probably brings up this guy. Yep, here we go. Notify me of a new Ubuntu for any version. And this is going to nudge the repository settings, which you need a password for. And then now, this guy, once he finishes doing his thing, should now bug me about 1704, which will give me a newer kernel and stuff. It should do that. Let's see if it does it right. So here I am on Linux. Yeah, I've been doing stuff on Linux. So I was trying to get OpenCL to work correctly on Linux because I want to compare like Blender performance. I guess I didn't run Blender on Windows, but and then I was also going to compare the performance of Luxmark. But that's kind of a pain. I got the AMD GPU Pro drivers going, which I think are closed source. They perform a little bit better or about the same. Oh boy, the graphics driver situation in Linux is a pain. I'm not going to get into it. Here it is in Tomb Raider. Same settings as before. I was getting, I think, around 56 in Windows, 49 on Linux, which for a port isn't bad. Really isn't bad. Performs fine on Windows. On Linux, I mean, which I'm not complaining about. I tried TF2, performs fine. Linux seems to be fairly happy on here. If you have to have a single issue, everything works out of the box. Graphics works fine out of the box, with the only big downside being the whole idea of, I've tried to get those drivers to install. I haven't tried it without it. And right now I'm going to try rebooting it, hopefully, because I just installed some OpenCL stuff that will make the OpenCL stuff happy and want to work, because Linux has this driver issue when it comes to graphics. Everything else driver-wise seems to be pretty happy, but graphics, nope. So I guess the only other thing I could start doing is overclocking. I know that GPU will overclock just fine. I'm more curious into trying how well the CPU will overclock, so I'm going to get into the BIOS and try pushing it a bit harder. So here's the results before we ran it. The total time is 1.8357 seconds for Sysbench CPU with all threads. So let's now give the system a reboot and enter the BIOS. So let's get this thing a nice overclock. So I'm turning the board on now. Mash and delete to get into the BIOS. So, I've never overclocked these chips before. Well, I have overclocked a similar Athlon, but it wasn't multiplier unlocked. And from what I looked in here earlier, I can crank that multiplier up to 32, and since it uses a 200 megahertz bus speed, I should be able to hit roughly 6 gigahertz with this board, so that means it's unlocked. So that's under jumper free config. I don't know why. Overclock. Overclock profile. You know what? I'm going to just try that. 10%. It says it's going to overclock at 10%. I haven't touched anything else. I haven't touched voltage or anything. That cooler isn't great either. I'm going to get another fan on that cooler about now, too. But I should be able to get more. Power supply shouldn't be a limit. I think I can pull quite a bit of power from that guy. I'm not going to be running any GPU stuff at the same time. And I should be in Ubuntu roughly about now. Let's get it booted. So I changed the hardware setup a little bit, added that second fan, changed out the graphics card because I want to use the other one for something else. With another thing I'm doing right now. Let's take another look at this system. Yeah, graphics card's changed, so screen res is off, but I do not care. Control Alt T should open a terminal, so if we go, is it smart enough to let me see everything? No. Oh, here it is. Here it is. This is a command I like. Okay, so it's running at a really low clock speed. So now it's running at almost no. Why are you here? Clock speed. So now if I fire up a new terminal, all right, that should be new terminal. Apparently it's not. Open terminal. I thought I was hitting that. Okay. Dash stress C6. If I max out all the cores, it still says 3.2, which could be wrong, is my guess. I'm pulling another 20 watts, and I'm pulling 200 watts from the wall right now, so I'm going to guess this will do better. And I got 1.67 seconds, so that's a reasonable improvement. And then if I just let it run, stress, and then if I run, watch sensors, I can see what the CPU temperature will go up, and it's at 40 already and still quickly going up. But I should be able to squeeze more out. And I did get 10% more, which is roughly, I think, 3.5 something. Yeah, that feels about right. I don't know what it's doing. It could be touching the bus speed, because what it could be doing... Do I have a calculator on here? Yeah, I do. So what it could be doing two things by bus speed. It could be bumping the bus speed up to 220, which is what I'm guessing it's doing. And 220 bus speed should be a pretty much stable overclock on everything without touching anything else. Times the default multiplier, which would be 16, which would be about 3.52 gig. Or what the other thing they could be doing is touching the multiplier, which is 16. So that'd be 16. So that would be 16. They could bump it up to... No, they probably not touching the multiplier because that was like a 2% option. That wouldn't be multiplier. CPU temps, wow, that's already at 51 degrees. So that's probably more like 70 on that chip. So that guy's getting pretty darn toasty. And yeah, you can feel the heat coming straight off of there. But just for kicks, let's see if I can push it any harder than this. Okay, so let's go to a bit more advanced overclocking now. So we're gonna just turn that auto, manual. Okay, so here's the big one: CPU bus and PCIe frequency. We're not gonna touch. Don't touch PCIe. CPU ratio. I think yeah, this guy is unlocked. So okay, I'm just gonna touch this. If I shove it to 18, that will go 18 times 22, which will give me 3.6. I think. Let's try. We're gonna try 3.7 right now. That's 3.7, let's see if she applies and actually works properly. So, it crashed at boot up right now on 3.7, so we're gonna do a hard reset. Now go back into the BIOS and hopefully get it to, bump up the voltage for the CPU. So we're back into the BIOS, and if we go into advanced, jumper free, should be a CPU voltage option. I remember these guys, I think about 1.5 is pretty high. I know you can go about 1.55 safe. 1.55 safe, and I think 1.65 you can do, you shouldn't. So this should work. But I said that last time. So yay, it actually boots this time. So let's try this one more time. We should get slightly higher system bench results. But we get the whole infamous problem, which is you haven't been touching you've been touching the multiply, not the system bus speed, so things like RAM and stuff won't be overclocked. But it does show correctly here because we are changing the multiplier, not the bus speed, which doesn't report correctly in this right here, that we are running at 3.7. And it does seem to be relatively stable. Runs fine at max load for a couple seconds. So, let's run that. Now we got 1.588. If we do run stress and then watch sensors, we can see, oh boy, that CPU is going to get toasty, 47. And also currently the power consumption is about 255 watts, so this guy is making a lot of heat, but it is running at 4.7. So let's go shut it down and try again. Okay, so back into the BIOS. Jumper free config. Let's say skirt and see how big of a number we can get. Let's go 1.55, which is about the max you want to do on these guys. Let's try. We're gonna try 4.1 and be optimistic that 4.1 is actually gonna work. And we just crashed to 4.1, so it looks like we're gonna be dumping it down to 4.0. Okay, so let's try something a little bit different right now. So I'm pretty darn sure that a 220 bus speed works. This is gonna be way too high. But if I bump it up to 19, that would be 22 times 19. What is that? So this would be 4.18. Let's go 18, which would be, I think, about 4 gig. What is that? This would be 3.96 gigahertz. So let's see if it actually hits it and boots correctly. This guy should be running about 3.8 with a 210 system bus speed. So let's see how she does. I don't know exactly what clock it's going to show here. I'm pretty sure it's... I do not want a tab. I want a new window. So if I run the benchmark here, that says 3.7, but I know it's a 210, so that should be running at a little bit higher than that. But I am getting 1.5. Let's see if I can get it under 1.5 seconds. And if I try to kill my system, what temperatures are? Idle temperatures is 37, 38. That's wrong though, but... And then if I run stressing it, I'm up to 270 watts, 275. I'm getting at power supply limits now. Let's just try to see if I can get that on a 1.5 seconds. Maybe 4.0 would be a great number to hit. So jumper free config, I'm already at about the max voltage I want, so I'm gonna bump it up to 19. And let's try 19.5 and be optimistic. 19.5 times 2.1. 5 goes about 4.1 gig, which would be great if I could hit it. And that should get us under that 1.5 seconds for that arbitrary benchmark. And we got another crash. Boot up. So let's try going down one more, which should be around maybe 3.95 range-ish. And hopefully we can do that and make that work correctly. So jumper free config, let's bump that down to 19, hit F10, apply, and just hope she works correctly. So jumper free config, let's bump that down to 19, hit F10, apply, and just hope she works correctly. Looks like it is a booting, so it looks like that previous result I got was going to be the fastest we're ever going to get with that, I think, 18.5 multiplier. So, yeah. Let's just be happy that what I got, I'm going to run the Blender BMW benchmark on here one more time on the CPU, and just kind of call it a day and say that's the highest I'm probably ever going to get. And probably the last thing I do at the end of this video, let's compare some speeds of the overclock. So this is stock, we're getting roughly 5 minutes 46 seconds in Blender. And here it is overclocked. We went from 5 minutes 46 seconds to 5 minutes 5 seconds in Blender. That's probably about it what we're going to be doing today. So thanks for watching this quick little video about this old system here. I'm going to try to turn it into a desktop once I get a case for it. Probably just going to go to some used shop and get some used ATX case, and then call it a day. It's not much else to say about this guy. Kind of a nice little system though. It's surprisingly zippy. That speed that I got on Blender is roughly equivalent to like a 2600K, depending on what you're doing. It's about equivalent to like a modern i3 to i5, a multi-threaded. In single-threaded, it's not great, but it's fine. And you saw in games, it performs reasonable, at least in Tomb Raider, which doesn't care about CPU, so that wasn't a perfect test, but not bad for 30 bucks.